Nedum, you were at this game. How would you sum it up?
I think when I saw City's team, I could see the players that were in there, but I couldn't see a formation. So it felt like it was going to be a different type of performance from them. And it wasn't the City which we've been used to seeing, steamrolling teams and so on. So it was a bit cagey. Some players weren't in good form and so on. And I think in the first half you could see it was quite a poor game. But I think a lot of people rightly look at, say, the Aguero penalty miss and know that was a big point in the game. I think for City to be able to go in 2-0 up whilst not playing that well, I think that would have been a huge boost for them, but they weren't able to do so. And then in the second half, we saw a far better Chelsea side. I think in the way that they were playing the same formation, the same style as they have been doing in recent weeks, maybe with slightly different personnel. They looked more comfortable, and I think they got a head of steam going. And then they managed to get back into the game, and they end up winning 2-1. And to be honest, I felt like they deserved it. But ultimately, I think for City, they're disappointed they didn't win the title today. But going into the next game against Chelsea in the future, I think they've got enough. They've seen Chelsea up close now, and then get a feel what the style's going to be. Because ultimately, I don't think Tuchel changes his style that much at all.
Lots of little different incidents within this game. Let's talk about one that Nedum just mentioned. Frank, Aguero with the opportunity to give City a 2-0 advantage just before the break. He went for the Panenka and it went very wrong.
Oh, yes, you could have said that otherwise. In a way that when you miss that, you look stupid. That's as simple as that. You can be a genius when you are successful in that matter, but when you miss it, you look like a fool. And it's what happened to him. I mean, we all remember that Aguero was the savior and gave the first title at the last second for Manchester City some years ago. But in that matter, they would have scored that second goal. They would have been the champion tonight. Well, it's just a matter of days, and nobody has a doubt that he cannot be the champion. They will for sure, but that was strange. He missed the first control when Raheem Sterling scored the goal. Then just 2 minutes after, tried the Panenka. Come on, you want to go out, from Manchester City from the big door, and that's kind of shameful. You don't play a lot. You have an opportunity to score the goals. Of course, everybody will remember you as a legend, but many will remember you as the guy who just postponed the title.
No, they won't, Frank. No one will remember it. When people look back at Aguero's career,
yes, I will make sure.
Do you remember that?
I will make sure.
Penalty that he missed against Chelsea. Did they win the league? Oh yeah, they won the league anyway. But what about it? He tried a Panenka. What a selfish man! I don't know, Frank. Isn't it just a big deal over nothing? It's not gonna dent his legacy as one of the best players ever to play in the Premier League because he tried a Panenka and it didn't work.
Okay. Everybody will remember that they had a fantastic career, but I tell you, I missed one big change against Paris Saint-Germain, and Ronaldinho scored, and 20 years or maybe more, 20 years after, people sometimes remember that, to me, where, of course, I had a 17 years career. So, of course, at some point, some people will say, hey, Aguero, Panenka, remember? That was good. That was a good one. Once in a while, everybody will remember that to him. And I might be the first one because, you know what? It was disrespectful towards the goalkeeper. I always say that. It's not because it's Aguero. It's just because when you have a penalty, you have to score a penalty and you have to respect the football. And when you do that sort of penalties, you don't respect the football because first you don't respect the goalkeeper, the opponent, and your teammates because you just play around and you're not being professional in that matter. Just only that matter. I have nothing against Aguero. It's somebody that I really respect, and I think he's a fantastic striker. But today, with that, I'm not happy with him.
Nedum.
So I was going to say, with this, I think, Dan, you're kind of making an interesting point about nobody will remember it. But I tell you who will. It'll be Sergio Aguero. Because I think just this evening, he's tweeted out to the fans, the players, and he's apologised. Like, don't get me wrong, I don't like the fact that he's felt he's had to do that. But he understands what it means. And I think for him, he's in a really interesting position because as much as he's a legend for the club, we don't know if he's going to play another game for the team. But he knows that his time's up in a few weeks. So it must be such a weird spot for him to be in because, as I say, he might want to go out with a bang. But that could be the lasting memory that he has after all those years, because the next game is not guaranteed he'll play. The game after that is not guaranteed, and we've seen that he doesn't really play in the Champions League. So, it's a tough spot because he is a club icon. But as I say, nothing's guaranteed from him anymore, and which is the last thing you need when you know that you'll be leaving the club come the summer.
He's going to retire, and he's going to have Frank Leboeuf running after him, going, "You remember the Panenka? Go on." Go away, Frank.
I will.
Leave me
Sure
alone.
I will.
Okay.
Of course I will. No,
Obviously,
of course.
late on, big call for Manchester City to have another penalty. Before we get into that incident on Sterling, let's take it all the way back to earlier on in the game. Should Sterling have got a red card for that challenge, Frank? He was given a yellow, of course.
Definitely for me, even if it's the 12th minute of the game, and we all know that Raheem Sterling is not a dangerous player or a nasty player. He made what I call a forward tackle, where you're very clumsy, but you can break a leg. And it's almost what happened on Werner when he tackled him. And of course, it's a red card. It's a straight red card. We saw that so many times this season with the VAR. And, well, therefore, definitely for me, it's a red card. He should have gone out.
Nedum?
Yeah, I think for me, when I saw it live, I didn't even think it was a free kick. But then when I saw the replay and I saw the slow motion in a certain angle, I thought he could be in trouble here. That's the key bit. I said he could be in trouble. But when it's like that, then I suppose ultimately the referee thinks that he's seen it, and ultimately VAR don't believe that they can overrule with what he said, which will be another theme when we talk about this penalty in just a moment's time.
Why isn't it a red, Nedum? Because, as you say, it gets the ball with one leg, but it's that other leg, isn't it, that catches the player high. It seems very difficult to justify that sort of challenge.
Yeah, I think it's the fact that he does. It's just in real time. You see him get the ball, and it seems like he's just come in for like a fair tackle or whatever. And as I say, you look at the replay in the slow motion, it does look worse. I think if maybe Werner's leg was planted for that little bit longer, or if there was more of a protestation from the Chelsea players, then I think maybe more would have come from it. But instead, it almost seemed like it was an action which happened, and people moved on from it. And I think as far as VAR and stuff goes, for as much as they want to be impartial essentially and just read every situation the same, I think sometimes the sort of atmosphere that exists after an incident can sort of sway people's minds and opinions as well, because maybe the referee himself would have thrown in a red if more people would have gotten in the face and say, did you see that, did you see that? But ultimately I don't think there was enough furore around it for them to believe that it was a serious thing.
And then we fast forward it into the second half. Manchester City thought they should have had a second penalty. From a defender's point of view, Frank, is there any defence here? No,
not at all. I think it's a clear foul. It's maybe two fouls in the same event. And Zuma came twice and pushed, in fact, Sterling. So it's definitely a penalty for me, no doubt about that. But again, I just come back to what Nedum said. I think it's a name perspective or position perspective. It's because he's the forward player. The referee thought it wasn't a nasty tackle. It would have been Rudiger on the other side, or maybe Ruben Dias. Maybe it would have given the red card. But going back to that penalty, for sure, it's a penalty.
I think when everybody saw the replay, we thought, well, at least the referee's going to be sent over to the monitor, Nedum, but never happened.
No, it didn't. And to be honest, I think some of that is to do with the way that, say, VAR works itself. Because I think ultimately, if the referee says he has seen it, and the stuff that he's seen says there was a coming together of players, but he doesn't think it's a penalty, then VAR have to present something, I believe, which is, almost objectively true, which is very hard to find within football. Like, most people watching it think, yeah, that's probably a penalty, as opposed to, some people who say, well, it's touch and go. And I think from what I've spoken to people today, if you support Man City, you say it's a penalty. If you support Chelsea, you say that it's not, except for Frank. Frank's the exception that proves the rule. So, I don't know. I think if the referee gave it, VAR wouldn't have turned it over. But ultimately, his decision on the field has gone out and it's stood again. And that is basically part of the process when we think about the way that VAR works itself.
Nedum, does this result have any significance regarding the Champions League final?
See, for me, I don't think it does, because I think today the bigger thing was performance. Because from when I saw the Man City team, like I say, I didn't even know what formation they were going to be playing. They basically had one midfielder, 5 defenders, and then just a whole load of attackers. So the way that City play today isn't what's gotten them all the success which they've had this season. And I think some of the players who were playing today, there was an opportunity to play, but they're not the ones in the greatest of forms, talking purely from a City perspective. And then you look at Chelsea and they made maybe 2 or 3 changes. They're significant players like a Mount, like a Chilwell. But Chelsea's style of play almost feels like at the moment it's set in stone. So I was more interested in seeing how they would be moving around and what their tactics are and so on and so forth. But for City, you won't see that lineup come the Champions League final. So yeah, it was a big result for Chelsea in terms of winning, but it wasn't just big. It wasn't big because, in my opinion, because they beat City, who are they going to be playing in 3-4 weeks. It was big because they needed to win this weekend, whoever they were playing against. Whereas for City, if the season was on the line today, I think they would have gone with a more familiar style, with more familiar players. But ultimately, like I say, I don't consider it a dress rehearsal because there are different things on people's plates. And I think when the moment comes, I think it could make for a very good Champions League final because we're going to see 2 very, very tactically astute sets of players with a really, really high IQ.
Hey, good week for Chelsea in the end, Frank. You take a look at that win away against City. You say they're Champions League now, yeah?
Almost, I know. Yeah, the thing is, Leicester losing at home against Newcastle, it gave a little bit of even more hopes to Chelsea before that game, and I think it's mainly the mind setup who change or who can be compared to Manchester City because nobody has doubt that they can be the champion, but Chelsea desperately needed points away from home. A draw would have been perfect. It would have been good. A win is perfect because they're third now. Liverpool won, okay. West Ham will have to win, and they will have to run fast and chase Chelsea to make sure Chelsea is not in the Champions League. But I think with the full of confidence that they have in the Premier League, they're going to get that spot. And it's also psychologically maybe a plus comparing to Manchester City. They beat them in the semi-final of the FA Cup. They won away from home today. Will it help them to win the Champions League? Maybe it will change. Maybe from the bookies will maybe won't be sure that City is a favorite, but in the Chelsea mind, I think it won't change anything. They know that it's a final. It's going to be very complicated. But for the PL, I think they can be very confident that they can reach the right spot.
Well, thank you very much for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming, premium content, and let's not forget as well, ESPN FC 7 days a week. Subscribe to ESPN Plus.